Hi. I'm not putting on makeup today because I was at a con all weekend, so my face hurts. So you guys are just getting this today. Just whatever this is. Anyways, I'm Sphinx, and I'm sure you've already read the video, so I'll just kind of jump right into it. In case you don't know, I am a costume major. I'm a costume designer. That's what I'm majoring in and majoring towards, though I do work in both stitching and wardrobe crew. So one of my main dream jobs is to design and work on idol fashion and costumes. In case you don't know, in Japan specifically, now there are other idol groups like this, they have specific themes and looks and costumes and outfits that they all wear. If you've watched any anime that's like idol themed, you've seen it before. You can literally look up a whole bunch of resources and just look up J-idol groups and you'll see that there's a bunch of themed groups, and I really love like the glitz and the glam of it, having to see all of it and see it on stage and be able to be performed in it. It's why I really like working on dance pieces personally, because it kind of leans me towards that direction. So this is an excuse for me to build my resume by turning a bunch of characters and random things I see, or songs, or whatever else comes to mind, into idol groups. And since I'm a bitch who loves to jump onto a bandwagon and the new Five Nights at Freddy's movie's coming out, I decided why not do the FNAF animatronics specifically from the first game. That's what this video is. Obviously you've read the title. Let's move on. The first step into figuring out exactly how I'm going to design and create these types of characters is to do my research. So my first step in my research is just looking at a bunch of reference images. Although I know what the animatronics look like, and I'm sure if you've clicked on this video you also know what the animatronics look like, at least from the first game. Hopefully at least from the first game. Still, I want to be able to have it concrete and in my face so that I know exactly what it looks like all the time, and to make sure my brain is fresh on those images. My next step in my research is to look at the actual canon material and the information that is about the Five Nights at Freddy's games and the animatronics. Now, I'm going to say this with love in my heart. We are not going into theories. We are not going into fanon. We are not doing that. As a designer, it is my job to look at the material that's handed to me and to construct something based and around that material. I'm not really supposed to put my own, like, well, I think this character is like, I can give a little bit of influence that way, but that's more of a director or artist in charge of the project's job. I'm just a designer. I create what I see. There is one exception to that rule, and that's how the audience perceives the animatronics and the Five Nights at Freddy's crew, and we'll get into that later. So I decided to ask my dear friend Elfie Moth, who is a FNAF fanatic, just a couple small questions just about literally anything that came to mind that I feel like would have been helpful for my research. The first main thing that I was looking for was time and place of the game, and when the animatronics were built specifically as well. What we have of canon, and if you're in the FNAF fandom, you know, it takes place in Hurricane, Utah, which I did look up and looked on the government website of Hurricane, Utah to make sure I got all my information I needed. It seems to just be a kind of cozy, small town environment, very close-knit, a lot of family-run events and small businesses. It's kind of just surrounded a bunch of mountains in the middle of nowhere in Utah, which I think everywhere in Utah is in the middle of nowhere, so. Now the time it takes place, the animatronics were built late 70s, early 80s, but the game takes place around the 80s. Where I was looking for more historical, like maybe magazines or patterns or real life photos, stuff like that. Now I was looking at musicians, so a lot of their stuff was promotional work. That's still something that came from that time period. I didn't want something that was inspired. I needed something from that time period, as I do want to place these idols into the 80s. That did include listening to 80s music. So this led me down to listening to a bunch of 80s music both in America and in Japan, and looking at 80s band musicians and 80s idol groups in Japan. Now I will say this, music in the 80s had a very wide range. There was a lot of cultural impact, there was a lot. Now the main music that popped up the most when I looked up 80s music and 80s entertainment was high energy, happy, very dance influenced music. Now, I will say this very important information. The 80s had a lot of cultural and social movements and impacts that made it and created the art of the 80s. There wasn't just happy music. There was a whole bunch of other musics and musicians and talents and art that was very much thriving in the 80s due to the cultural and social changes happening during the 80s. Now, I'm not going to get into that, but I also didn't want to ignore it as again, the 80s was a very big and important part in a lot of people and society's change, and this reflected in the music and the art. And this is not the video for that. I'm also probably not the person for that. I don't really know music history. Again, I'm a costumer. So we're gonna move on. I also asked how the animatronics were built, or the shape they were built, like specifically their silhouette and stuff. They're a bunch of older animatronics, so they don't move around a lot. They're very much like kind of one move, two move. This is the exception, except for Foxy, who can sprint like a motherfucker. All the animatronics are pretty slow moving, pretty clunky moving, and their shapes are more of a rounded, softer silhouette. I wanted to design and kind of create a look that was very comforting and welcoming, something that was happy, something that would be welcomed in this small, close-knit town. For a while, I was actually stumped because I was looking at a bunch of the 80s stuff and I was like, none of this feels right, something just feels off. All the designs and research I was doing, I liked what I was getting, but I didn't quite feel like it was what I needed. And then I remembered the most important information about Five Nights at Freddy's and its location is that it's a kids' entertainment location. So I need to make this kid-friendly. So I looked into kids' entertainment from the 80s. Allowing me to look at the kids' entertainment allowed me to also keep my shape and the silhouette of that rounded softness. Now this is the part where I do allow outside influence in my research. Something that is very important with idol groups, or really any musician group, but you see it's more specifically with idol groups. If you're a part of K-pop or see people who are around K-pop, you understand. Audience influence is extremely important. How the audience perceives you and characterizes you helps to translate you as an artist and a band member, especially in idol communities. So that is the only outside influence I have. And as well, the animatronics don't have any programmed personalities into them, so I couldn't just pick a personality for them. I had to kind of base all their personalities and what they might wear if they were people into how the audience perceives them and how the fan base looks at them. These are what I came up with. Freddy is your soft, lovable himbo. Bonnie is your carefree, funny guy. Chica is your bubbly, girly pop personality. And then Foxy is your mysterious, cool guy. So I need to make sure that those elements do translate into their designs. Let's go ahead and get into the actual rendering and drawing process. First thing we're going to do is I'm going to explain my small little process. And I learned this from college, and it's something that I do encourage you to do if you do design or even just play with sketchwork. I use vellum paper to sketch out my bodies, and then on my second vellum paper is where I lay it on top and I actually design the clothes and trace the body that I previously drew. That way, one, I have a body in my folder that I need if I need to use that body again for any other designs, and two, if I don't like what I'm drawing in my first one, I can still maybe keep the clothes from the first one and just switch over to a new piece of vellum. Let's start with our main boy, our lead, Freddy. For him, I chose a very relaxed, comfortable two-piece suit situation. The shoulders of the suit are padded and rounded out. I also have the sleeves rolled up to create a more relaxed and fun look. He also has fingerless gloves, which is a very youthful fashion statement in the time. I also gave Freddy a nice soft turtleneck under the jacket, another very popular fashion statement, especially for the black community, which I did design Freddy as a black man in this iteration. Next are the pants, which are a type of casual dress pants with wide rounded legs that close up at the ankle and at the waist. It's similar in style to parachute pants that we know of today, but this is a much more brought down and business forward approach to parachute pants. The shoes are simple business casual dress shoes, along with them some simple dress socks. The hairstyle I went with for Freddy is an afro. It follows that round and soft silhouette that I'm looking for, as well as popular hairstyle for black men at the time. And of course I added his bow tie. I will say, I did forget his little hat. So we're just going to pretend that his hat's on the other side of his head that you can't see, and it's at like a little tilted angle. That's what we're going to say, because I forgot to draw it. So the main thing that I was also looking for with these designs was something to tie them all together. I'm sure as you looked at what I brought up with my other idol group images, that they all have some element. They're all slightly different, but they have either a similar silhouette or a similar style that all combines them together. So I needed an element to tie all these characters together. And then I remembered that this whole entire thing takes place at a pizzeria. And anybody who's played the games or been a part of the fandom knows, anytime we see black and white checkered stuff next to a red line, we automatically are teleported back to the pizzeria. So that's an element that I'm going to include in their design. I lined his coat with a black and white checkered, and as well had his pants cuffed with another black and white checkered pattern. So next we're going into Bonnie, who's going to have a more casual, relaxed look, as he is the more like cool, fun-loving guy. For Bonnie, we're doing a fashion choice, is what I'm calling. 2 button-down shirts, both with the collar popped. Yes, this was a thing. Don't ask me why. It was a choice, so we're moving on. His bow tie is loosely tied on. Then I gave him some nice velvet-styled, flared dress pants along that are cuffed at the bottom, again with that black and white checkeredness. Gave him some dress socks along with just some casual dress boots. And I also gave him some silver bracelets and jewelry just to help bring home that little cool guy vibe. For his hair, I'm sure we've all seen it before, as hopefully most of us have watched or seen something from Stranger Things. Just that nice pushed back hair that was very voluminous and very popular at the time. Our third design will be going to Chica. I'm gonna be completely honest. She was my trouble child. It took me forever to figure out exactly what style and what outfit I wanted her to wear. I had no idea who or where I was going with this design. Everything just felt wrong until finally I landed on this nice, casual little springtime jacket with rounded sleeves that I completed with a matching circle skirt. Again, this keeps me with my rounded silhouette and still keeping that nice casual soft vibe that we're looking for. Her undershirt matches the bib that comes with her original design. She has the black and white checkered legging along with a pair of just nice casual chunky heels, something that will be easy for her to dance in and perform in. She has her cupcake earrings back to symbolize the cupcake from her original design, and her hair is a half updo with a red scrunchie at the very top of her head. Finally is our speedy boy, Foxy. Personally, one of my favorite characters, if you couldn't tell. So Foxy is kind of the outcast of the group. He's kind of like he's not really on stage with them, he has his own place, so I wanted to make sure that represented through his design. As well, he's also the most broken down of the most animatronics, so I needed to also have that reflected in his design. The route I went was 80s punk. So I started him off in a nice leather jacket that'll have rolled up sleeves that show that checkered pattern again. He has an undershirt that is going to be a striped undershirt. He has his shorts that he has as an animatronic. I also included knee pads for him because, again, as he is the one that moves around the most, I kind of put on that he was maybe the more lead dancer of the group. Now look at me in the eye, look at me in the eye, look, I'm getting close to you. If you can include knee pads and your dancer's costume design, do it. Please. I'm begging you. Save the knees of some poor dancer struggling to get up the stairs and crying on rainy days. Please. I also included some accessories of just like bandages and scarves tied around him, which are very common at the time for punks. His boots are just standard combat boots with just some white boot sock. I decided to go with a nice messy spiked look, which is a very fun, volumed hairstyle that was in the 80s for the punk culture, as well, not only in America and Western culture, but also in Japan. Having spiked hair was also considered very punk, and I designed him as a Japanese man. I also did give him like one fingerless glove because he has a hook hand. Made sense. Now time for the fun part, the coloring part. The medium I'm going to be using is colored pencils, as I feel it will give me that nice unsaturated kind of older look that I'm looking for, and as well as a medium that I know I'm comfortable with. I will say this, I'm going to speed through this process because this video is getting long, so I'm just going to speed through this process really fast. And the colors that I used are all kind of like mixed together. There's all different brands, so they all have slightly different pigments. So just know when I do describe the color to always color swatch your own stuff to see if it's going to match, if you're trying to replicate the style. For Freddy, I used a purple, red, and dark brown for his jacket, pants, gloves, and shoes. The turtleneck and socks are a burnt... How do you say that? For his turtleneck, I used a burnt sienna. His belt and his bow tie are a mix of both red, brown, and magenta. I couldn't quite figure out the red that I wanted to, so this was kind of like my trial. I did pick a different red later though. For his skin tone, I chose a medium brown, and for his blush, I chose a lavender. For his hair, it's just a nice simple black. Next is Bonnie. His first button-down layer is silver. His second button-down layer is purple and gray. His pants are kind of a mix of colors because I hated how bright the pants kept coming out, so these are the colors that I used. Now I could have easily have just kind of like reprinted an uncolored version of it, but I didn't want to do that. So this is the colors that I used. I used a lavender and a purple with a light shading of black on top to try and neutralize that bright color. His socks match his second layer of undershirt. His shoes match his pants. His skin tone is a pink blush and a peach skin tone. His hair is a light brown with purple streaks. He also has silver jewelry, and his bow tie is a dark red along with a belt that is also a dark red. Chica comes up with a nice yellow jacket and skirt with a shirt patterned as the colors to match her bib in the original design. Red shirt collar, waistband, shoes, and a scrunchie. Her cupcake earrings are a light brown base and a pink top. Her skin is an ivory with a pink blush and blue violet eyes. Finally, her hair is a mix of light brown and golden yellow. And last on our list is Foxy, who starts out with 2 different red browns. Again, this is why you always should swatch. Both the color pencils said red brown. They were both 2 completely different shades. Combine those for his jacket color. His undershirt is a gray, red, and black striped shirt, a red belt holding up his light brown and burnt umber pants. His shoes and single glove are both black. His knee pads are gray. His hair is a light brown. And finally, for his skin tone, which I'm going to be completely honest, I wish I redid his skin tone. It's not the best. It's a fair warning, I guess. I used a burnt cyan with a red-brown blush. I also forgot to mention that his earrings are gold, along with his belt buckle is also gold. Now, that's all the designs. Finally finished with 3 to 4 hours of research, 2 hours for each of the vellum sketches, and an hour for each of the colored designs. In total, it took me about 16 hours to complete these renderings. And with that all being said, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to the stage, the one, the only, Five Nights at Freddy's crew. Well, at least from the first game. I know this video is kind of long and for a silly little idea with a silly little game for silly little designs, but I do hope you enjoyed it either way, and I hope you're ready to see more content like this, because I will be posting more content like this. I will keep doing this. This is a promise. So just let me know who you want to see as an idol group next, or what you want to see as an idol group next. It can literally be anything. I don't care. I'll see what I can do and turn it into an idol group the best I can. Thank you all so much for watching. Make sure to do all the dumb YouTube stuff, and I guess I will see y'all later. Bye.